Freehand sharpening may look difficult, however it really isn't. Hi, my name is James, the operator of professional kitchen knife shop Knives and Stones, based in Sydney, Australia. Today I will show you how we as a professional knife shop sharpen our kitchen knives. This is a 3-part video aimed to guide you from a complete beginner to someone that can not only sharpen any kitchen knives, but also able to improve its original grind, making cuts ever better than before. Please note that this is a rather long and comprehensive guide, and feel free to jump to the other sessions if you feel like so. First, getting the knife sharp. I define a sharp knife as a knife able to shave hair and make thin paper slices. You should be able to achieve such results by the end of this chapter. To get started, apart from your dull knife, you will need a few sharpening stones. In this video, I'll be using a 1000 grit, or we call a medium grit sharpening stone, and a 3000 grit finishing stone. A spray bottle filled with water to periodically wet the stone. You'll also need a paper towel to clean the knife because I don't have running water here. And of course, I need some anti-slip mat or a stone holder to hold the stone so that it doesn't move around. Do know that some stones require soaking in the water prior to the sharpening session, and we call these the soakers, like the classic king stones and the 3-hill stones. Modern, faster ceramic stones do not require soaking, and in fact, they will get damaged if you soak them. However, the splash and go stones are generally more expensive. It is very important to hold the knife properly, as a correct posture can help you stabilize the knife, hence reduce the chance of scratching the blade. If you are a right-handed person like myself, your right hand will be responsible for locking the angle of the knife against the stone. So we hold the knife in a classic pinch grip position. The next, you will put your index finger on the spine of the knife, like so, to ensure you have a full and steady control of the blade. I'll show you again, like so. Then we place the blade against the stone at about 12 to 15 degrees and diagonally pointing to the northwest. You should make sure the setup is at the correct working height. Usually a kitchen bench is a good choice. Anything too high or too low will affect the way you move your hand, which then makes your hand less steady, affecting the result. Now let's move on to strokes. Alright, okay. So your right hand lock the angle, the left hand give it a gentle push, like so. And your entire arm sort of move forward along with the knife. And see, my left hand is always on top of the stone responsible for the push. And when I come back, it's like almost like lifting the knife and come back, okay? So this is a breakdown. We don't pull back with force or with any pressure with your right hand. So it's almost like a direct single direction. What we are trying to do is we are trying to get the knife's edge away from us. See, my angle is going away from us, not going back towards me, okay? Or going into the stone. So in the later part of the video, I will be doing the pull back. I will be pulling back, but not pushing. So the idea is that you get the edge away from the stone, not into the stone. And the reason is, when your hand doesn't have the muscle memory like I do, your hand tends to still get a little bit tight and wobbly. So when you are coming into the stone, or what we call a leading edge into this, sometimes it's very easy for you to wobble and dig something out of the stone. So we don't want this. In order to make this drill as simple as possible, what we do is we just give it a gentle push. Push, push. And see that my left hand is always on top of the stone, going forward. And my right hand feeds the knife into it. So if I would start from the tip, I will be pushing, come back, feed the knife a little bit, push again, come back, feed the knife, and push again. So as this 21 centimeter gyuto, I really sharpened it 4 times to finish the entire blade, just like so. And you can see the black stuff is already coming out. That's a sign of you sharpening. All right, okay, back to the strokes. So we know we have to just basically lock the angle and push forward. So how do we determine the correct sharpening angle? There are a couple of ways to do so. First of all is that what we call the two coins method. So imagine you are setting up and you are lifting up the knife. And the gap between the spine and the stone, we usually have, we call two coin method. So you put two coins on there. That's roughly the correct angle, like so. So this is one way of determining roughly what sort of angle you are using. So like this, okay. And it's two $1 coins. So that's one way of finding the correct angle, the two coin method. The second one, which I find it particularly useful if your knife is very new. For the new knives, you can see this very shiny bevel here. This is the factory cutting bevel. And what we can do is we can use the Sharpie. Yes, this is the Sharpie, the permanent marker. We use this, and this is called the Sharpie method. So you can use the Sharpie to mark your blade road, like so. Okay. This is not very clear. Let me find a black one. With the Sharpie, the marker applied, what happens is, if you are sharpening on a very high angle, what will happen? Imagine this, I'm just doing a very high angle like this. Okay, so if we go one stroke, you will see that we pretty much removed nothing. It's very easy to imagine, right? You just a little bit on the very edge, a little bit. We can't even see. Okay? This is as expected. And if I'm doing a very low angle, like so, you see I removed a lot of the Sharpie. What happened is, see here, okay? See here. What happened is you pretty much removed a lot of, or you're just basically scratching, the area where it's on top of the edge, not the actual edge. It's only when you are doing on the correct angle, the whole edge will become shiny. Okay, let me just do that again. Okay. And yes, you can just color it multiple times during your sharpening session to make sure. I'm just giving it one correct go. And see, I removed all the edge. So I think the Sharpie method is the best to follow what is already on the knife. And the third way is that you use one of these guide, this angle guide, to help you determine the initial edge, the initial angle, like so. Okay, and if you're sharpening the front side, you can just do it like so. Okay. So this is an angle guide that's great for setting up the initial angle. I do not recommend you sort of constantly use it. But basically what you do is you start with one of these guide to help you sort of set the angle, okay? And we have this available as well, Knives and Stones brand. And yeah, we give them out along with some of the knife purchases. So this way, you know that you're doing a sort of correct angle, like that, okay? And you can move it away, and that's the angle that you can follow. That's another way. So there's 3 ways of setting up the initial angle, but don't worry too much, because with experience gained, you will just know that, okay, this is the correct way for this sort of knife. It all comes down to experience. You will get there. And yes, sometimes you will wobble a little bit and scratch the knife, but that's as expected, so don't worry too much. Okay, now let's put everything that we've learned all together to make it a continuous motion. So right hand lock the angle, like so. Left hand on top of the blade, subsequently on top of the stone, and giving a gentle downward and forward push, like this, okay? Feed the knife, okay, come back and feed the knife. This is the continuous motion. And you will notice that while I'm doing this, it's as if my left hand is doing a push and pull motion, but that's not the case. It's really just a push, and then the whole arm comes back. It's just when you're doing the continuous motion and have gained enough muscle memory, you will be able to do it a lot quicker, just like this. My left hand on top of the knife, moving and pushing. Come back, move the push, like this. Okay, the right hand just lock the angle. All right, one thing to mention is that when we are sharpening, and we are sharpening the tip usually with where the curve is, this is not that significant, but with a lot of German knives, it's a huge belly. With those curved ones, sometimes it's very hard to really stroke everything in one go, especially the tip. So what we do is that we really just you have to treat each section of the blade as a small straight line. See, it's composed with a lot of smaller straight line. So what we do is usually with this type of very curved knife, you just treat this as one section and you just sharpen that bit, and then you move a little bit back and then sharpen this big, and then you do that. So you break the tip, the curved tip, down into a few different sessions, and just work on that. So this bit will have you sharpen 3 times, whereas the second and third part will just get you sharpen 2 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so you just break this down. Another way, if you care to learn, is that you can also just lift it a little bit, just make sure you have a better contact. So just work on that small bit and smaller strokes. Just work on that slow bit. Small session, that's also also fine. It's just a bit of a lift and push. That's another way of sharpening the tip. And some will ask, hey, James, I like to do this single stroke motion, a single trading stroke. Is there any problem with that? Well, yes and no. No being, if it does work and it works for you, it's fine, it's okay. But for a lot of you that are just starting out, sometimes your hand tends to be a little bit tight. And if you go all the way out and you push too much, what will happen is that sometimes you will just tilt the knife toward and then sharpen it, scratch it towards the side, the edge of the stone, and give it a huge scratch. So that's not what we want. And my job is to make sure this stroke is very simple and you can't go wrong. So we use the simplest method. I just push, 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 and come back. And another very important note to take is that when we're sharpening the knife, okay, just pushing, we always sharpen the entire blade road. We don't say, okay, if I love to just use this section of the blade, a lot of people do, and obviously it gets dulled a lot easier for this part of the blade. But when you're sharpening, you still have to sharpen the entire blade row, okay? Because otherwise what happens is, if you just keep on sharpening this section will get sharpened a bit more, and then each time you just sharpen here. So eventually it will become flat first, and then it will, or even worse, it will become a hook like this. If you are a chef, you may have seen some of your colleagues' knife like this, okay? So it becomes a hook, and that's not what we want. Okay, now we're done with the front side. Let's work on the back side. The idea is the same as the front side. We hold the knife in a bit different way though. This time, still 3-point method, but this time the thumb goes to the top of the spine, and the index finger is pressing to the back side of the knife. Again, about 1/3 away from the edge towards the spine. Okay, and this time, what we do is, again, the same left hand applying a pull. Okay, see that? Applying a pull. Again, the reason is we are getting the edge away from the stone. Away from the stone. You know, the height is about the same. 2 coins, Sharpie, whatever. Left hand on top of the stone and away from the stone so that we don't dig into the stone. While sharpening the backside, you will see that my knife is still pointing to the northwest or top left, whichever way you love to call it. And one attention to pay is that when you reach the middle section, you gradually turn your knife sort of perpendicular to the stone and do it like this. Okay, so you start from 45 and you gradually back to 90. Why are we doing that? It's because if you keep going at 45 degrees, your handle will hit the stone first before your edge sort of finishes. So you turn it perpendicular and then sharpen the rear. And now let's do a continuous motion. Okay, I'm giving myself a good posture. Continuous motion. All right, break down. Right hand hold the correct angle. Fix it from the tip. Left hand pull, pull, come back and pull, 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 turn, pull. Okay, continuous motion. Again, the tip, you know, you work on the tip a little bit more, either by breaking it into smaller sections or, you know, a little bit of lift. Just make sure you give it a very firm touch. Okay, this is the back side. And now we are comfortable with finding the sharpening angle and doing the correct strokes. On the front side, on the back side, we are very comfortable with that. But how do we stop? Now, we don't count the strokes. Instead, we use the burr to find out. The burr, also known as the wire edge, is a small jagged piece of metal that forms on the edge of the blade during your sharpening session. It's a sign that the steel has been ruled or sharpened by the stone and indicates that the new steel has been exposed. The presence of burr indicates that the knife is ready on the current sharpening stone and it's time to move on to the next grid or turn around. When we are sharpening, it is essential to stop and feel the burr has formed along the edge with your finger. Remember, not just one point, but the entire edge. When a burr is formed, it's very easy to tell because you can feel there's something that's scratching your finger. If you are sharpening the front side, the burr will appear on the back side since the steel has rolled over, like so. It's particularly obvious on lower grit stone like the 400 or 1000 grit, but less obvious on higher grit stones. But once you've gained enough experience, you'll be able to tell that the edge is ready. Some people advocate for counting strokes when sharpening. Let's say, do 30 strokes on this side and turn over and do another 30 strokes. However, this method is flawed. For example, on a new and very thin knife, the burr can be raised as few as 3 strokes. And if you are counting 30, you're basically doing 27 strokes more than necessary. What's the result? Well, effectively, you are reducing the lifespan of your knife by 10 times. Oh, well, I guess there's a silver lining on doing this because we, the knife shops, love you very much as you will be buying another knife very soon. Conversely, if the knife steel is very hard and requires, say, 35 strokes, then 30 strokes won't be sufficient. Therefore, it is critical to rely on the presence of the burr rather than the number of strokes because, you know, you're 5 strokes away from the knife is ready. So I'm not doing my normal sharpening. What I would do is, usually for a relatively new and thin knife, I do a couple of rounds and then I will stop and feel it. On a 1000 grit stone, it is very easy to see, okay, I already formed the burr. Yeah. I'm just doing backward and forward sharpening as I was teaching, but when I'm actually doing it, it takes me no time to form the burr. It's very easy to feel. It's like something is scratching my finger, my thumb. And you won't feel it on this side because I'm doing it, you know, on this side, and then the burr race on that side. And if you come back and you do a couple of strokes, like so, the burr has already formed on this side as well. This indicates that the burr has been raised on both sides of the stone and is ready to go. We've done on this 1000 grit stone. We are ready to move on to the 3000 grit. It's very important to remember though, once the burr has formed, it is important to remove it before, say, turning to the other side or progress onto the next stone. Otherwise, it affects the result of your sharpening. So how do we remove the burr? Firstly, well, this is really the optional step, is that when you're sharpening, okay, when you're doing your normal sharpening, you apply the normal pressure on the stone. And you know that with experience, this is about ready, and then you gradually releases the pressure. So the pressure from that hard pushing down to something more like a stroke, less and less, okay, like so. By doing so, it actually helps in improving the sharpness of the knife because, with the release of the pressure, the sharpening stroke becomes more like a stropping stroke, if you get what I mean. So it definitely helps in further improve the sharpness of the knife. That's optional because not many people remember to sort of lightly reduces the pressure. So what do we do is that we can also, if you forget about, reduces the pressure during the sharpening session, is that when you finish this side, you feel, okay, the burr is here. What you do is you turn around, do trailing strokes like this. So trailing stroke is the edge away from the stone, not into the stone. So a few passes, that will remove the burr. At this stage, if you are using carbon steel, white or blue steel, most of the burr should have been removed. It's quite easy on a carbon steel. But on a stainless steel, say like the VG10, sometimes Ginsan, the burr is a little bit harder to remove. And in this case, what we will do is we can simply run the knife along a paper towel like this, or if you have other soft material like cardboard box, for example, or if you have a leather strap, you can use that as well. And, soft timber, just like light pass into a, say, soft pine wood or whatever you can find. And even your jeans, that works as well. It's just dirty. So, yeah, run it through like this. It will definitely remove the burr. And once you've done this, we are ready to move on to the next stone. So at this point, you should now have a very good knowledge about freehand sharpening, as we have just completed the 1000 grit stone. So what next? The standard progression for a kitchen knife is to start with a medium, say 1000 grit stone, followed by the 3000 or 5000 grit finishing stone. The medium stone helps to form the new edge, while the fine grit stone refines it and gives a razor-sharp finish. As a result, you can often find a double-sided stone to have either 1000 grit and 3000 grit combo or 1000 grit and 6000 grit combo. In fact, I find the 1000 and 3000 grit is a great combo for an average household sharpening need. If you want to get a more refined edge, you can certainly choose the 6000 grit as the finishing stone. So one may ask, how about those super high 12,000, 20,000, and 30,000 grit stone? Well, you can certainly use them if you like it, but it's completely unnecessary, as I can totally understand the eagerness when one just started the journey of sharpening and so wants to get those show-off sharpness like, say, the ones on YouTube or Instagram, splitting hair, tomato test, and all sorts of paper cutting tricks. But remember, we are talking about sharpening kitchen knives that are used to cut vegetables and constantly making contact with hard cutting boards. The super duper 30K sharp edge will not be able to hold, and you are likely to lose the edge in a few cuts. So as a result, you are pretty much putting a huge effort and investment for almost nothing. So I'm not a fan of those. Yes, you do need a 400 grit or even lower grit stone when you start dealing with the thinning process, but that's the next episode. So after finishing on the 1000 grit stone, I will be moving on to the 3000 grit. Still using the same Naniwa Arata series stone. I find it great for home use because it comes with a box as a stone holder, so it's quite sturdy. And let's get started. Again, a bit of water. I will be going through everything in one go so that there won't be any breakdowns, and you will see how I would do it in a normal sharpening progression. Again, water on top of the stone. Okay, lift it up and push. Okay, remember this is just the pushing. Very quickly you can see the black stuff coming up. So once I finish the front side, I will switch back to the other side, the back side. And now my left hand is basically involved in just pulling. See, while I'm working on the tip, small strokes, I'll break down a little bit more. Right hand still lock the angle. Left hand just pull, 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 turning to perpendicular, just like so. Because we have made a very solid 1000 grit foundation, this 3000 grit becomes a lot easier, and in fact it takes me no time to finish on this 3000 grit stone. See, this is the trailing strokes as I mentioned earlier. That's about it. Clean it up a bit in here, okay? A bit of deburring, that's about it. So as you can see, it took me almost no time in finishing this knife on this 3000 grit stone. And if you are using a say much higher grade 8000 grit stone, for example, it is a lot harder to feel the burr. So your experience will come into play as you progress along, and you will be able to tell that, okay, this is definitely done. But usually, if you have made a very good 1000 grit foundation, then the higher grit finishing is a lot quicker. So once you are happy with the sharpening, now is the moment of choose. Let's do some test cuts to see how good our edge is. There are a few ways to test the sharpness of your edge. One very easy one being the nail test. So a well-sharpened knife should be able to grip into your nail. So different areas of the knife should be able to, it feels almost like the edge will bite into your nail, like so. And it won't slip. If the edge slips on the nail, that means it's not sharpened, at least for a 3000 grit edge and higher grit. Okay, it's very easy to feel it. And you can also do this trick on your hair. So it feels like the edge will bite into your hair. All right. Okay, don't actually slice. It will bite and stop. That's a sign that, okay, this is quite a grippy and sharp edge. And of course, we can do the paper test just by finding yourself a piece of plain paper, letter A4, and just hold it like this. Okay, sometimes some people hold it so far away, it's very hard. So hold it closer to where you will start the test and just slice through, okay, like so. And if some point of your edge is not done, then usually that point will get stuck. It won't be able to cut through the paper. So as soon as you feel that, you will know that, okay, this is not the best edge. And if you've done a decent job, you will be able to slide very thin slices like this, okay? So that's another way. A 3000 grit is also able to shave hair. So unfortunately, I don't have a lot of hair, but let's see if it works. Let's just give it a go anyway. Let's see. So if you have hair, then this should be able to go through. See, the hair pops straight onto the knife. I'm gonna see it's here right here. Okay. See that? So as 3000, it's already very easy to pop your hair. And of course, you can always do the tomato test cut. I guess that's one of the fancier ways of test cutting. And you can see it cuts straight through. For a tomato test cut, as soon as you cut, you will know that the edge is totally different to a dull knife. Because if your knife is dull, you are pretty much squeezing the potato rather than cutting. So it's a very shiny edge, and there's not much juice coming out. And of course, if you fancy the famous potato test cut, you will be able to cut it with just a slice, with one hand slicing. Right, this is a decent edge. Okay, so a lot of fancy YouTubers do this type of testing. It's actually quite easy with a decent edge. So this, let's see. So this is a decently sliced potato slice, right? Okay, so let's see. Let's see here. Okay, see that? Okay. So this is what I define as a sharp edge, and I think most people will be happy at this sort of sharpness. So, okay, my friend, at this point you have mastered the first stage of our ultimate sharpening course, and you should be able to grab any knife and make it pretty sharp. However, the sharpness of the edge itself, they do not reflect how actually the knife's cutting performance is. Well, this is confusing, right? Because you've just sliced the tomato really, really thin. But let's put it this way. An axe can be sharpened to hair shaving. But would it be able to cut a potato properly? Think about it. An axe cutting a potato. No, it won't, because most likely the axe will split the potato rather than cutting. So this issue will be dealt with in the stage 2 of the ultimate sharpening course, thinning. Thank you very much, guys. I will see you in the next episode.